It's a story that will not go away. And perhaps, I don't know why, but it's getting worse. I'm going to give you all a trigger warning. If you clicked this video, I can only assume you know we're going to be talking about poop on the streets of San Francisco. But if for some reason you stumbled upon this video by accident and don't realize we're going to be talking about the massive explosion of excrement on the streets of San Francisco, by all means, leave now. It's going to get messy. People are pooping more than ever on the streets of San Francisco. Wow. One of America's wealthiest cities has a huge problem with public poop. That's weird. Between 2011 and 2018, San Francisco experienced a massive increase in reported incidents of human feces found on public streets. You know, where I live, I have never seen human feces on the streets, and I wonder why that would be. In 2011, just over 5,500 reports were logged by the San Francisco Department of Public Works. In 2018, the number increased to more than 28,000. The government watchdog opened the books, documented the sharp increase over time in a stunning chart. Ooh, got it on Twitter. First spotted by the BuzzFeed editor, John Peskowski. What's this one? Lately, there's been a brownout. Come on, guys, seriously. In the Bay Area since 2011, there have been at least 118,352 reported instances of human fecal matter on city streets. San Francisco, liberal haven, home to all the big tech giants and all their woke progressivism. How does this happen there? I'm from Chicago. I will say this: the amount of times I've ever seen human excrement on the streets of Chicago is like in the single digits, and that was like most of my life. All right, look at this. In 2011, something happened. 5,500. In 2018, 28,000. Your city doesn't work, your policies don't work, something is wrong, and you better figure it out because you are covered in excrement. Notably, this is a chart of only documented reports. The actual amount of feces on San Francisco streets is likely even higher than these statistics suggest. I will say there's more feces on the sidewalks than I have ever seen growing up here, San Francisco Mayor London Breed told NBC in a 2018 interview. There is a huge problem, and we are not just talking about from dogs, we're talking about from humans. San Francisco has struggled with a feces problem for years. The city even employs a poop patrol that attempts to keep the streets clean and focuses on the Tenderloin neighborhood. But the problem is bigger than just keeping the streets clean. The issue appears to be related to the city's struggle to accommodate its homeless population amid skyrocketing rent prices and a decreasing supply of affordable housing. A 2017 survey of San Francisco's homeless population counted nearly 7,500 people living on the street. That population faces limited public resources, and public bathrooms are no exception. Whether the Poop Patrol is able to reverse the trend on San Francisco's streets remains to be seen, but there's an indication the crew is a bandage on a problem much bigger than dirty streets. Listen. What does it mean to be a social liberal? I am not a classical liberal like Dave Rubin. Classical liberals are sort of right-leaning. I believe there can be government solutions, but was often lost in this debate is that simply because this program doesn't work doesn't mean you can't have good government programs. I think that's silly. Here's the problem. The analogy I often use is that you get a cut, you put a Band-Aid on it. San Francisco got a cut. They got a wound. Homeless problem spiked. So what did they do? Instead of solving the problem, healing the wound, they said, put a Band-Aid on it. Well, they did. And the Band-Aid started festering with feces. So you know what they did? Put another Band-Aid on it. That didn't make the feces go away. It just covered up the feces. And now you keep slapping Band-Aid after Band-Aid. One of the arguments I hear from many libertarians is that the problem with government is that the solution is always more government. I agree. That's not the solution. Just because you are left-leaning or not. Like, the point is, just because I lean left doesn't mean I think the solution is more government. It's that I think typically the solution is it's more government is better than less government at a base level. So let me explain. There is a certain government program that can help prevent 28,000 cases of reported feces. It's certainly not what they're doing now. Poop Patrol didn't solve the problem. It's like you get a wound, and so they're like, okay, hire someone to wipe the blood off. It's like, dude, you're bleeding. You need to do something to stop the bleeding, not just keep wiping the blood when it gets to become too much. That's not solving the problem. So they say, okay, hire someone to bring more rags to the person who's wiping the blood away. It's like, no, you're not listening. Look, you got a poop problem. There's a solution here that can come from the government. Absolutely agree. I think so. But what they do is they create a program trying to alleviate the problem. It fails. So they create another program to try and alleviate the problem, and it fails. So then they create a poop patrol, and you're like, dude, quite honestly, you need to get rid of the bad programs now and then find a program that works. And this is what I think is confusing for a lot of people when it comes to this argument. I agree with you. More government isn't always the answer. It's nuanced. I do think a government program can be the answer. I like the fire department. I like the police department to an extent. But I think the system of, paying taxes, it gets you a guaranteed subscription. It gets you a right to access free of discrimination is a good thing. The solution to this problem is not whatever they're doing, which means end the program. It's not working. Try something else. But no, I'll tell you, invariably what they're going to do is they're going to make a new program right on top. Now they're going to make, double poop patrol. It's like, dude, poop patrol never solved the problem. It just swept it under the rug, quite literally. And it's only going to get worse. And eventually your poop patrol will be overwhelmed and your city is trash. Your policies don't work. Pull them back, clean house, and start something new. Maybe the solution is private. Sure. Maybe the government should contract out a poop cleaning system. But I don't think a poop patrol solves the problem. The problem is the system of San Francisco itself is imbalanced and broken and needs to be reformed. It's not always more government you need. Reform and actually taking away some programs too. That's the other thing. Listen, a social liberal, for people who don't know why I lean left, is just an individual who believes there is a role for government in healthcare and public policy and a social safety net. And it means you typically lean towards we can implement government programs to help maintain like equality and things like that. And equality is an important issue because this is an example of what happens when you have massive inequality. The uber wealthy living atop their skyscrapers, avoiding paying the taxes because the legal system is designed in such a way that it can't accommodate the current technological levels we have, and people will always find a way to bypass taxes. What does that mean? It's not that we need to tax the rich. It's that the system we've developed isn't keeping up with technology, and it's really, really complicated. The point I'm trying to make is we can argue about solutions being government or private. The issue is I know what they're going to do. They're going to create a new government program on top of all the other broken ones. And that's where I think conservatives and I would probably agree. I think we'll disagree on the solution being with government. I think we can all agree whatever it is they're doing now ain't working. But it's not a new story. It's a story that won't go away. Because here's the story from August. Why is San Francisco covered in human feces? People aren't pooping on the streets because they unlearned hygiene. Rather, the incident reflects shameful levels of inequality in the city. But here's the problem. We have freedom of movement, okay, within the United States. So if you keep creating great programs to help the homeless, they're attracted to your city to make things easier. Sometimes the solution isn't just give the homeless more shelters, because that might actually attract people to come to your city and create bigger problems. Now, I'm certainly not saying leave them behind, but I'll tell you what. How can we make it so that these individuals who are living on the streets can be self-sustainable to whatever extent they need to be? How can we create a system that stops people from flocking to cities to sleep on the streets? It is a huge problem, particularly in the West, because the weather is so damn nice. It's like always 69 degrees in San Francisco. I'm not really, but it's just very, the weather's great. The weather's great in LA. The weather tends to be great in California in general, and that attracts the homeless. So it's not so much their government policies, but the policies they try to enact to solve these problems don't work. They blame it entirely on equality, and I believe that's entirely unfair, because one of the main issues is, as I pointed out, the weather. The streets are smooth and nice. Like you do not want to be homeless in Chicago. Okay, you got winter. It's really tough. You're stinky. It's a nightmare. But maybe one of the problems is we need to figure out how to, I honestly don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. But we can't incentivize homeless people to come to certain areas and concentrate. And I mean no disrespect to homeless people. I mean this in a compassionate way. A city covered in feces is not beneficial to anybody. So I do think the answer I think an answer here doesn't lie in the private sector for one reason. But maybe I'm wrong, so you can comment, but what's the market incentive to accommodate somebody who doesn't have money to profit you. If the government wants to pay a private company to solve the problem, that makes sense to me. However, I think we have an issue of the market won't necessarily incentivize anybody to solve this problem. And the other problem is that the government, well, I said it a million times. A government program on top of a government program isn't going to solve anything. So how do you really solve these problems? Public bathrooms, maybe, maybe not. I honestly don't know. What I can say is I do believe the constant attempt at, creating new programs on top of old ones just results in your feces problem. And I will say, San Francisco, as far left as it is, has only created this problem because this idea of woke progressivism, it's been, you could actually, okay, I'm going to be a dick. I'm going to be a dick for a second. Woke progressivism has been on the rise since 2011, as has public pooping. Spurious correlation, maybe? I don't know. I'm just kidding. But the point is, whatever you're doing needs to stop. And I think it's time to listen to somebody else because San Francisco is poop town. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Stick around. I'll have more videos coming up every day. The next video tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you next time.